Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
Clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
If you like paranormal, true crime, cryptids, or anything else weird, check out the Ouch Was That a Ghost podcast brought to you by your host Liz. You can find Ouch Was That a Ghost on Spotify, Apple, or any other audio platform. New episodes drop every Thursday.
On March 27, 2020, Jake Sansom and his uncle Maurice Cardinal were hunting near the village of Glendon, just over 200 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. That night, both men were shot to death during a confrontation with two farmers in the area. During a 2-week Court of Queen's Bench trial in Edmonton, jurors heard evidence that one of the two accused, 58-year-old Roger Bilodeau, spotted the hunter's truck in his driveway. Believing they were thieves, the farmer and his then 16-year-old son chased them, reaching speeds of over 150 kilometers per hour. Bilodeau called his older son Anthony, in his 30s, to help. He brought a gun. Security footage caught the encounter on camera. When the two trucks came to a stop near a remote intersection, according to the defense, Sansom broke Roger Bilodeau's truck window. When his son Anthony arrived, he shot and killed Sansom, then Cardinal. Crown prosecutors argued both Bilodeau men should be convicted of second-degree murder for the killings, and lying to police before finally confessing.
Just said Anthony, I said, "Do you know my truck?" And I said, "You've got to confess, I promise."
What did he say?
He said, "Yeah, his dad, I know." So let's deal with it.
Anthony Bilodeau's lawyer argued his client acted in self-defense, and Roger Bilodeau's lawyer tried to persuade the jury that the father didn't intend for the encounter to turn fatal.
Alright, welcome back, folks. Now, my next little tale here I'm going to present to you here, it's going to be about a couple hunters and a story about them in the Canadian wilderness here. Now, I'm going to just give you guys a heads up here, too. Like my other cases I'm still working on. I've just been so busy with work and everything else, but they're coming. I got Kenley Matheson Part 2, Melvin Skeet Part 2, Melvin Skeet Jr. Part 2, but yeah, I got all those in the works, and I'm just trying to piece together some stuff that some family sent me and everything, and it's just, I didn't have time this week, and what do you do, right? But in the meantime, like I always do, I'll just pop off a random-ass case, so this will be my case. So, this one's going to be about two hunters, one named Jacob Sansom, and his uncle, Maurice Cardinal. Now, Jacob was 39 years old, and Maurice, 57. Now, the pair were up in Glendon, Alberta. Now, this is like a small little town here. It has a population of about 338 people. This is as of 2021, but back in 2016, the population skyrocketed. It was like a whopping 493 people. So, totally thriving little village in northern Alberta, Canada. So this little spot here has potential to grow. It's just mainly due to all like the heavy oil projects that are always on the go in the area. Like 60 kilometers around this whole place. Like there's always like some oil field stuff going on. It's just a key spot for like hunting and fishing too. A few lakes up that way. There's Moose Lake, Pinehurst Lake, just to name a few. So that's just a little bit on the area here. Now I wanted to tell you like where they were hunting around and whatever, so it's just a little ways around there. Like I mean, they had to go moose hunting there. That's what they were after. So they ended up going up there, Now, I guess I'll give you a little bit of detail about these two gentlemen here, so just give me 1 sec on that. Now, Jake had worked for a company contracted by Suncor Energy. So Suncor is a huge company here. It specializes in the production of synthetic crude, usually from oil sands, which is like loose sands, a type of unconventional petroleum deposit. So trucks move the oil sands to a cleaning facility where it's mixed with hot water, dilutant, just to separate the bitumen from the sand. Now, not sure what department Jacob was working at or anything, but they do have lots of camp jobs that accommodate everybody in the oil field areas and all the oil field jobs and shit like that. Now, Jacob had ended up getting laid off, he wasn't working that much. So, to help fill up his freezer and help out his family and some other family members, he decided to go moose hunting with his uncle Maurice. Now, this was March of 2020. And March can be a cold month here too, depending on the weather. Sometimes it's a little bit warm, sometimes it still snows in March, mainly because Canada's just wicked weird with the weather. I mean, temperature fluctuates between anywhere from minus 20 to minus 40, depending on, how much Mother Nature's gonna play with you that month, right? Now, they were gonna bundle up to go out, whatever, to go catch a moose. Now, they were both very well-experienced hunters and outdoorsmen. Now, the family had a trap line located in the area for decades. So a trap line is a route that has a series of traps along a specific route for catching animals. So it's then marked, recorded, and then monitored regularly by checking it, emptying, or rebaiting it, or resetting the traps to catch more animals or whatever. Now, Jacob did a lot of other things besides work and hunt. He was a volunteer firefighter here. He was known to dabble in the traditional medicines, other healing processes. Now, all these other healing processes that he would kind of do, he would have stuff that would include animal, plant, or other mineral based medicines or whatever, or kind of energetic therapies, stuff like that. Now, these two men here were just a pillar of their community too. They played a huge part in being involved in their community. Anybody can come up and talk to them, right? They were just straight up good guys. So, Jacob here grew up in Bonnyville, and this is actually a short drive from Glendon. Now, this is up in the Lakeland region, 200 kilometers northeast of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Now, Jacob was the eldest of 5 siblings from a large family. Now, there's lots of fond memories of everyone growing up, but I mean, there's also some hard times to be had as well. So around the time when Jacob was 12 years old, he was determined to put on muscle mass after being attacked by a group of young men in a pickup truck. So after all this, Jacob had found an old weight bench and barbells down at the dump. So he kind of rigged up some weights and milk jugs and everything to help him progress and build up that muscle. So he also started to idolize people like Bruce Lee, and this guy is very well known for his strength, his respectfulness, his martial arts, his will, all of that, right? So what better person to look up to than Bruce Lee, right? Now, Maurice, who everybody knew as Maurice, he had taught the family lots of outdoor activities up in the bush country. So this guy was very well knowledgeable with his family history, other spiritual topics, and both of the men's roots had come from the Wolf Creek area. Now, Maurice had loved his family dearly. He was wicked fond of his little nephew, Dalen. Now, that was Jacob's son. Now, Maurice would actually mail him boxes of Twinkies and other gifts time to time. And he just looked up to the kid, right? Now, the entire family could always be seen full of smiles in this guy's presence, right? Just a funny, happy-going, loving guy. Now, the family remembers one evening here, the two had just camped out here on a trampoline. This was him and another family member. They were just looking up at the stars, talking all night. Both full-grown adults, right? Just camping out on top of a trampoline there, just looking up at the stars all night. Now, it's just pretty cool that, they had that kind of relationship, right? Now, Jacob, he was married. He had kids, everything else, as it should be. And his wife, Sarah, had went to high school with him. So, like, they'd seen each other around. They were friends throughout. And later on, they reconnected in their 20s. So they had fallen in love. And the rest is history, folks. They would, just love this guy to no end. Like, he'd do anything for his family, man. Like, that's for sure. Just an awesome father, husband, right? And those two played like a wicked huge part in a lot of people's lives. And like going forward, just one fucking stupid encounter would actually change all that. The two hunters set out on their like moose hunt, right? Now this was March 27th of 2020, so 4 years ago. Now they ended up shooting a moose here, and everything went planned without a hitch. So they had taken the kill over to a friend's house to be skinned, cut into a number of parts, and then it would all be like distributed to the family. So they left their friend's house sometime that evening. They headed down Range Road 484, and Jake was the driver, Maurice was the passenger. So around 9:30 p.m., they made a brief stop at the entrance to a driveway of the home of a man named Roger Bilodeau. So Roger had noticed the truck's lit up headlights. Now, Roger had thought that there were some, like, thieves in the area scoping out his home and shit. So, he was worried about a possible break-in. But the truck was just turning around in the driveway. Like, that's just gonna be my guess here. Like, assuming, like, they got lost or what have you, right? They just used it to turn around and then continue on their way. Now, Roger had lived up in rural properties here, so like it was pretty like remote area, whatever, right? Now he's seen these guys use his property as a spot to turn around. He just got super spooked that they were gonna rob his place, or like were planning a later robbery or whatever, right? Now, like even up here, like there's lots of little robberies and crimes and stuff that go on, right? Just, well, not just here, it's everywhere, right? So people are just a little leery on like living way out in the middle of nowhere, like in these like the rural properties and whatnot. Now the hunters were just minding their own business, driving back from a successful hunting trip. Now they just went out there mainly just to put food on the table, right? Like kind of lighten the load a little bit around the house, and because like the guy wasn't working or whatever too, so he needed to do what he could do to make ends meet. Now all of a sudden here they seen a pair of headlights off in the distance. Now this was Roger driving at high speed after their vehicle. So he had chased the men down in his truck thinking that they were just thieves, when in reality they were just two men going home from a hunt, and they hadn't trespassed on anything. Like they knew people in that neighborhood, like lots of property owners and shit like that. But like they also had what was it here, like hunting rights. They had from the family to hunt in that specific area, so they weren't stepping out of bounds or being anywhere that they shouldn't have been. This guy just jumped the gun a little bit, it seems. So during all this stupid nonsense of a chase, I'm sure that Jacob and Maurice were just wondering what the hell was going on and who was chasing them, for what reason. Like, they hadn't done anything wrong at all. Now, Roger had made a call to his son Anthony during the pursuit. He told him what was up, and he said he was in pursuit of some thieves, and for him to bring a gun and meet him. Now, usually a request like this usually goes hand in hand with, like some ammo or whatever, right? So he ended up taking the gun, his vehicle, and he sped off to meet his dad and the ones that he was after. So, also earlier in the day, Roger had believed that there was a vehicle snooping around, checking out the area and whatnot. So, he's seen a vehicle earlier, and then he's seen this one. So, this could have been the reason why he was, like, thinking there was somebody that was gonna either rob the area or what have you. Now, the son had joined his dad in the chase, which reached speeds up to 150 kilometers an hour. So, this went on for 7 kilometers. Now they reached a crossroads, and Roger had their vehicle kind of blocked in. So after being all chased down these dirt roads, back roads, whatever, for some time, the whole thing came to a halt. So, the Sansom vehicle, now, they had arrived here at the intersection. This is Range Road 484 and Township Road 622. So, Roger had his truck in front of Jacob Sansom's, and he exited his vehicle here. So, he started to walk towards Roger's vehicle. Now, Roger then tried to throw it in reverse and then run over Jacob. Now, the sun had rolled up at around 9:45 now at this intersection, to which Jacob then began to walk towards him, see what was up, see what the deal was, why they were chasing them, and why they had to stop. They were just going home. And Anthony just shot him in the chest instantly. And then he proceeded to shoot Maurice there a total of 3 times. And just a crazy fucking situation, man. And, his father was all present throughout all this, like he witnessed and observed all these events going on. So now 2 innocent people were left for dead here. The father and son pair actually left the scene shortly after. They made no attempts to call emergency services or anything. They didn't call police, obviously. But, Anthony even had disposed of the rifle there, to which, hasn't been found to this day. It hasn't been recovered. And they just left the men to die there on the fucking dirt road 7 kilometers away from their home. Yeah, not cool. And all for what? No apparent reason. They could have just got out, talked, or conversated, did whatever. I mean, they would have figured it out eventually, I would assume, right? But you bring weapons and all this shit, and this is what fucking happens. And thinking back, Roger had clearly known that he started this high-speed chase in the dark around rural Alberta. He didn't have to chase these men. He could have called in the police. He decided to just take the law into his own hands. Kind of thought, maybe due to knowing that the police would take forever to come and, check on the vehicle to see if they'd find it, because they were some distance away, right? But, I mean, they would have responded. They would have drove around to try and spot the vehicle, try to check things out for themselves, right? But, no, they ended up just dead and left for dead. Now, the chase could have easily ended, a few times, too. It didn't have to go the full 7-kilometer distance. I don't know. There's lots of ways that this could have changed, but the outcome is terrible anyway. Now, the 2 men had died at the scene here, and they were found close to 4 a.m. on March 28th. This was by a passerby who called it into authorities for assistance. Now, before all of this, that Roger fella here, he was a community-loved individual. He was a volunteer throughout the town, and many had mentioned him to be a man of character. Now, he was a married man of some 39 years, a hard worker, in and outside of the community, mind you, and he was a contributing member of society. Now, his son Anthony, prior to this, he had no criminal record, no suggestion that he'd ever exhibited any violence towards anyone. Well, except these 2, I guess. So, as police gathered evidence up for, clues, they taped everything off, tried to piece together what happened. They ended up speaking to, other residents in the area and all that. And they had found something that would blow this case wide fucking open. Now, there was some security footage from surveillance cameras of this crime. So, this showed the truck, speeding up, both vehicles coming to a halt, the whole reverse of Roger's, vehicle trying to hit Jacob, and then the kid showed up. He shot those 2 guys, and, yeah, it was all in cold blood, and, it was they were nothing to this guy. Now, it wouldn't be long until the police could identify the truck and the camera footage. Now, I watched this footage, and it's pretty tragic. It shows everything. The whole shebang. And I'll also post that up in the episode description here. It's pretty fucking grisly, so it'll now forever be with me. Just like many other details of certain cases, right? But without that footage, these guys could have possibly went scot-free. Maybe the gun that was brought was supposed to be used as a scare tactic, but both these individuals, like both families, were scared, obviously. They didn't know what was going on, and yeah. Anyway, the kid could have easily, not have brought the gun, too, as his dad requested. I mean, the whole thing was just too impulsive. So when the cops had shown up, they questioned, everybody about this, and they were taken into police custody for interrogation. To which they didn't tell the truth about, anything right at the beginning, right off the hop. And they would eventually come clean to authorities after, everything went down. They're like, okay, well, we gotta do this and whatever. So then everything would go to court, charges were laid, and now everything would come out into the open here and just tear both families apart. So they had tried to claim that it was all self-defense. Now, the defense used tactics here old tricks and stuff like that to try to say that the community was living in fear because of break-ins, and the response time from police weren't the best. But, it doesn't give anybody the right to go chase down people that they think are doing shit when they're not. And, they're dead now, so it's bullshit. Just a cross-examination here was done during the trial, too, by a Crown prosecutor. And they seem right through that shit. Now, before all this, neither the father nor the son had once called into police to report any, suspicious activity, break-ins, any suspicious vehicles, anything like that in that residential area at all. Now, during the trial, Anthony had tried saying that Jacob had started charging at him, running at him. So he said that he heard Jacob tell Maurice to grab a gun so they could kill him. So he shot him. And then Mr. Cardinal next, 3 times. And yeah, he said Mr. Cardinal was coming after him with a very large gun, and he didn't want to go to jail for protecting his family or anything like that. All in all, the Bilodeaus were the aggressors throughout this whole thing. Now, Jake Sansom's mother and Maurice's sister, she had spoken out at the trial along with other family members who read victim impact statements. Now, she mentioned that she has a huge void in her heart and now lives a nightmare she can never wake up from. You selfishly took 2 lives that mattered to loved ones. Now, throughout all this, Roger was sentenced to 10 years for his part, and this was back in August of 22. So he was sentenced to, he got 2 counts of manslaughter. Now, he's prohibited for possessing any firearm and must provide his DNA sample for DNA analysis. Now, Anthony, who shot both men, was found guilty of manslaughter and second-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 13 years. And currently, both are appealing their conviction and their sentencing. Now, Roger, he was also given a credit here for some time served while under COVID-19 restrictions. It's bullshit, but Roger also got granted unescorted absences from prison for personal development and family contact, and these can be up to 72 hours per month. So this guy, who had part in all this stupid crime, gets to see his family, while the victim's family get to suffer without seeing their family members again. It's just this whole justice system's fucked. Now, Roger, he told everybody that not calling the police or an ambulance was being selfish. Now, Jake's wife, Sarah, now, she's widowed because of all this, and she looks after the kids. She works 2 minimum wage jobs, when before she was a stay-at-home mom who had helped with everything else. And she says when Jacob was alive, he expressed how he felt about the hate in this world, all the anger that was in it. And he wanted to do something to change that, how people treated each other. And, yeah, it just sucks that he never got to accomplish this great feat. And, I give you my sympathy, my dude. That sucks. She did mention that the children are actually, spending a lot of time sleeping in her room now. Ever since they lost their dad, they're scared. they don't feel safe, and after everything that's happened, I wouldn't either, right? And just give me 1 second here, folks, and I'll play a little clip on the charges and everything here for you.
Well, he listened to his dad and brought a gun to a dispute. And now, like his father before him, Anthony Bilodeau has been sentenced for the deadly shootings of an uncle and nephew on a rural road nearly 2 years ago. David Owasik has details and reaction tonight from the law courts.
Anthony Bilodeau will now begin serving a life sentence for bringing a gun and ammunition to a dispute between his father and these two Métis hunters, and then using both to kill the two men. Despite arguing self-defense, a jury had found Bilodeau guilty of manslaughter for the fatal shooting of 39-year-old Jake Sansom, just seconds after Bilodeau arrived at a rural roadside scene claiming to see his father being assaulted. That was nearly 2 years ago. He also faced a mandatory life sentence for second-degree murder for then taking his gun and firing 3 times at Sansom's 57-year-old uncle, Maurice Cardinal. The Crown and defense asked for differing parole eligibilities. Justice Eric Macklin split the difference, saying Bilodeau will now serve 13 years on his life sentence before his first chance before a parole board. Macklin also split the requests of both lawyers, handing Bilodeau 8 years for the manslaughter, though it's served concurrent to the lifetime sentence. Outside, the family of the two victims, too emotionally drawn to comment, a spokesperson offered her thoughts with their blessing.
All the days since that day have been really tough for this family and for the community, and no amount of justice will ever ease their pain or bring the boys back.
Defense lawyer Brian Barish is already saying he will likely mount an appeal based on the charge to the jury at trial.
Well, I think there's a number of legal issues that will arise as to whether or not self-defense was properly explained to the jury and how it arises in the context of 2 deaths.
Though Anthony Bilodeau pulled the trigger, his father, Roger Bilodeau, was also convicted on 2 counts of manslaughter and handed a 10-year term. He is in the midst of an appeal. From the law courts, David Owasik, CTV News, Edmonton.
She does, however, remember all the good times with her husband. Like, he would often try to woo her by being, like, creative and stuff, because, men, we sometimes do that. So, he would draw her, like, rose pictures on, like, a napkin, and, like, he was very talented with that. It looked perfect, right? And a lot of people in the public also described these two men, like, after everything was said and done, like, how they, like, honored the earth, they were keepers of their culture, just generally, like, really good guys. Now, Jacob's daughter here, Sierra, now, she was diagnosed with a rare neurological disease here that impacts her ability. So, like, they noticed that she had this prior, but since his death, they kind of came on a lot faster. Like, it was just a lot more severe now than it had ever been. So, at this time, she can barely walk much. She's going to have to be in a wheelchair by the age of 20. And, yeah, like, this is just everything else on top of everything else. Like, she just had to deal with all this court shit, the death of her husband. Like, yeah, it's just way too much stuff to go on somebody's plate all at once, and I'm wicked sorry for that. Now, this disease is called Friedreich's ataxia. So this is like, kind of impacts, between 500 to 1,000 people, and it progresses as time goes on, so it shortens the lifespan here. Now, there's been like a GoFundMe made up to help with like the medical costs, the medicine here. The medicine's actually $37,000 annually. So this site has raised some money, but not all, in hopes to get all this situated or whatever, right? And with that, folks, I think that's a wrap. That's all I got for you here. And I'm gonna add some clips in here about like the whole murder thing and everything else. So there's a couple clips I wanted to add about like the family and stuff, so you can check those out on this episode here. So thank you very much for tuning back in, guys. Oh, my new outro here I'm trying as well. Let me know what you think of that. Comment or whatever. This was actually made up by a friend of mine here, The Intoxicating Mind of Dr. Frankenstein. Now, they're available on Spotify, YouTube. I'll put both of their links in this episode description, so check it out. Fantastic stuff. So, with that, I thank you very much for tuning back in. Take her easy.
In March of 2020, Jacob Sansom and his uncle Maurice Cardinal lost their lives in rural Alberta. The two Métis men were hunting when an altercation with two men, Roger Bilodeau and his son, Anthony Bilodeau, ended with both Jacob and Maurice being shot and left to die. Both Roger and Anthony Bilodeau are in prison for their deaths. It was a huge blow to the close-knit Sansom family, whose lives were forever changed. Now, more pain for Sarah Sampson, Jacob Sampson's widow, and her kids. Their oldest daughter, 16-year-old Sierra, has been diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia. It is an incurable, degenerative disease that damages the spine, nerves, and parts of the brain. It affects people's ability to walk, can cause vision and hearing loss, affects speech, and can damage the heart. Sarah says Sierra has been showing signs for almost a decade that doctors could not find a diagnosis. And after Jacob's death, she says her deterioration quickened.
Before he died, she was still able to dance. She was still able to ride a bike. Over the last few years, it's to the point where she cannot walk half a block. She falls over very easily. She loses her balance. She gets fatigued incredibly quickly, even walking up and down the stairs in her home.
The condition will have her in a wheelchair in her 20s, and currently there is no known cure.
Knowing she's never going to dance again, knowing she's never going to ride a bike. Her dreams of being a biologist in Australia, she can't do those things anymore.
But to help her stay mobile now, the family have ordered a wheelchair, and it will arrive in the next 6 weeks.
She's a pretty strong kid. Asking how she's doing about it, her biggest thing is she cannot wait for this wheelchair so that she can hang out with her friends again. She can go to the mall, she can go to the zoo, she can actually be mobile.
A friend of Jacob's created a GoFundMe to help the now single mother and widow pay the bills. She works 2 jobs to keep the lights on. Her doctor advised her to quit at least one.
Already with the 2 jobs and all the hours I'm able to work, now I'm barely making ends meet. And if I have to quit even cut down hours, it's going to make it so I can't make ends meet.
Donations have been coming in, but not nearly enough to help long term.
Twisted Tales.